Bases dropped in Thursday Thoughts here on SDH. We're in the middle of a long, large, big week when it comes to high school soccer. We'll get into that coming up in just a little bit. John here, you there, Matty Cruz on the ones and twos. And today is our standard, incredibly busy Thursday show because when Jason is free, when he is safely parked and assimilated, getting close to practice at the Children's Healthcare Atlanta training ground in the next half hour, Jason will hang out with us and he'll talk about what happened last night with Atlanta United. Very, very cool stuff that he was a part of, and we'll get you ready for Chicago and anything else on his mind. 10 o'clock. It is the last Thursday of the month, which means one thing and one thing only, short of breaking news. Kaylor Hodges and our friends from the USL show drop by for 20 minutes, and we get to go over the 30 days that was. A little less than that, considering that the season just started. But the month in the USL Championship in League One, we'll go over that with Kaylor. Let's see if he drags anybody else into the discussion. There are some topics to talk about. And I know that Kaylor wanted to talk about something that we talked about on the show yesterday with the USL and the letter of intent with the city of Roswell in the northern suburbs. So we'll get into that with Kaylor. And at 10:30, last half hour of the show, it is our buddy Niko Moreno from Pulso Sports and the Soccer Bar. And Niko gives the Pacific perspective on the Western Conference, anything else going on in his brain when it comes to Major League Soccer. So it is our traditional rather large and busy Thursday here on the network. Shooter is not a fan of Caleb Porter. And for those of you in the Twitch pitch, you really can see just how much of a fan Shooter is not of Caleb Porter. Already wants him fired. Morning, Alex. Morning, David. And morning, Shooter. Shooter has already converted to Rhode Island FC. And Shooter right there. That's all you need to know right there. Rhode Island FC. There, it's a part of Office HD, and it is right there, ready to go. So, yes, considering that Michael Parkhurst, a regular visitor of the show, is part of the mogulness and the brain trust that is attached. That's why we're flashing the Rhode Island FC here in the office. Opening kickoff. I don't know if they have a – Shooter wants to know if Rhode Island FC has a mascot. I don't know if they do yet or not. And this would be a question for Jarrett. If we could come up with a mascot for Rhode Island FC, what would it be? And would Jarrett give himself permission to go up and be said mascot? Maybe it's like Captain Crunch or something. Some kind of a ship's captain. You know, the stereotypic ship's captain where you end up where he looks like the Danny Noonan character in the one scene in Caddyshack where he's got the blue blazer, the white hat. You know, the only thing missing is like the corncob pipe or something, and something like that. So Captain Parkey, I don't know, something like that. That'd be your mascot for Rhode Island FC, and we will see if Jarrett would consent to being said mascot or said representation. I don't know if you would want an anchor as a mascot if you were Rhode Island FC. But what this would do, if you were Jarrett or whomever the mascot would be, is it would give you access to all of the great Italian restaurants on the hill in Providence. So that'd be part of the deal. No, well, with what's going on in Baltimore, Shooter, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to jinx that stuff. But I would sit there and say the Danny Noonan scene in Caddyshack, you take that ship's captain character or Captain Crunch, and you let Jarrett do it, and that would be your mascot. So Captain Parkey, for lack of a better word right now, Captain Parkey would be the mascot for us heading in toward Rhode Island FC. Opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. And this is what happens when we don't really get to talk about things on a Wall Pass Wednesday that are the same way. And so we end up with this kind of stuff on a Thursday. That's your QR code for our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. You click on that QR code and it takes you to Kickoff Coffee and you kick off your day. See what I did there with our friends at Kickoff Coffee. Use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into youth initiatives, youth programs, very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Opening kickoff until Jason gets here is going to be catching up on the news of the day, news of the AM, and that kind of a thing. What I did want to do is talk about our high school schedule. And last night we were at Denmark for Denmark and Forsyth Central. Big matches on both sides as teams are trying to go for on the girls' side. The winner was going to be the 2 seed in the region, and that ended up being Denmark. And it was on the boys' side, Denmark needed a win, and they need to get some help to get into the playoffs. They took care of that, and so now they're scoreboard watching, and they might be driving to other matches in the region as they go here for the remainder of the week. Because remember, spring break here in the metro Atlanta area is next week, and so everybody's trying to get their region play done, I think, by spring break. You might have some holdovers on the flip side, and then you have another week or week and a half after that to get you through your schedule. So last night, big shout out to our friends at Denmark, and we did the scarf swap. And so this is from our friends at Denmark. This is one of them, and Mr. Duquette, who is man in charge of game day ops upstairs, and he's one of the soccer dads. We did the scarf swap, and so this is from our friends at Denmark. And this is the 2023. See, I didn't get the chance to see what these are. I just knew that they existed. I didn't get the chance to open. And so that's one. Denmark Soccer. It's the 2023 season scarf. That's pretty cool. And then the other one, and I didn't realize that it was 2 separate scarves. And so Mr. Duquette, and I can't thank everybody up at Denmark enough, Coach Karen, the athletic director, Mr. Duquette, and everybody else involved with game day ops with putting up with me. It is the Dane Nation Double Blue. The Dane Nation Double Blue scarf on the one side, and once again, they use Die Hard like we do. And so there's the white, as I bang the microphone this morning. So this is the 2024. So the 2023 was a very thick blue. This is the 2024, and it's double-sided. And so I've got to figure out which one, probably the 2024, considering that was when we visited. I'll hang on to the 24. The 23, Maddie and Jason and Jarrett can fight over each other and figure out who gets the 2023 scarf. But yeah, the fantastic scarf exchange last night up at Denmark, big stuff, and it was really cool to be up there for that. And big wins for Denmark on the girls and the boys side. Today, we have another rivalry. We are in the middle of a 4-match week when it comes to high school soccer and the sprint getting to spring break. We were at, Maddie and Jason were at River Ridge, ranked number 2 nationally on the boys' side. River Ridge and Sequoia, and that was Tuesday night. Last night, it was Forsyth Central in Denmark. Tonight, it is McIntosh at Stars Mill, and I think those are 6s and 8s. And it's a rivalry across the board, regardless of what the sport is, but in soccer, kind of amped up that much more. So we'll have those matches tonight. The full complement, me and Maddie and Jason, will all be down there with that one in the Southern Crescent. And then Friday, while Maddie is, I think she's lacrossing at Kennesaw State, it will be us in the mountains for the first time. White County at Gilmer. So we're going to Ellijay, and it'll be the first time that we will have been there. We have been already taunted by barbecue in the area. So you know me and barbecue and local barbecue joints. I get to add them to the list. We've already been taunted and teased that this will be on the menu at Gilmer High as the Bobcats take on White County. So we'll be there on Friday. And on Saturday, we rest for a day as we get ready for Atlanta United and Chicago Fire and Easter Sunday and getting ready to see everybody. Great to see Matt Wagner also yesterday at Denmark, and Matt and I talked about some things and how Matt might be one of our sources when it comes to activity up Georgia 400, when it comes to knowing scores and things like that, scores and storylines. So it's great to catch up with Matt. Matt was decked out in all of his Denmark Dane gear, and so it was really cool to see all of that go down as well. So high school off and running toward the end of region play, trying to set things squared away for the region titles and 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s, and who's making the playoffs, who's racing to get in, who's trying to flip a position, that kind of stuff. SoccerDownHere.mixler.com soccerdownhere.mixlr.com. Soccerdownhere.mixlr.com. That's our live platform this year. They've been really great about transmission and space and all these kinds of things, so we can archive the matches so you can go back and listen to them if you miss the live broadcasts. So it's soccerdownhere.mixlr.com. That's us. Follow us there on Mixlr. Download the Mixlr app, and you can listen to all of our live content. All the live games, they are there on the Mixlr platform and our Mixlr channel over there. All the Atlanta United 2 stuff, all of our high school stuff, anything else that's live goes to Mixlr. And so that's where we are with that. So once again, great to be up Georgia 400 last night and hang out with our friends at Denmark. And Maddie and Jason can fight over the second scarf all they want. That's opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Once again, there's your QR code for those of you who are watching on Twitch, on the 280-character app, or on our YouTube channel. Once again, remember that the show is archived on our app after we're done, usually early afternoon, depending on download speeds and if I'm in a hotel room or if I'm here in Office HD. Use that QR code, get you to Kickoff Coffee, and don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10%, reinvest it into youth games, youth initiatives, very, very cool stuff that they have earmarked at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Transition, that's the scarf, to help out our friends at the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. And you can pick that up. I have them here in the office. You can DM me, DM the show, go to the Discord, fill out the form, and it's $32. It's a summer scarf, and Maddie is an international fashion model for being on the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation website, sporting the scarf, and you get to see Niko and his words of wisdom about why this is important in the grand scheme of things. SDH is helping out the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation grow from the ground up, and this is one of the ways that we're doing it with this summer scarf. $32, get you the summer scarf, and if you want the Abstermobile and Abby to deliver it to you. If you want it mailed, and if you're far outside the purview of the Abstermobile, like I'm sending a scarf to California, by the way. Just got that note from our buddies over at the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. Hey, send a scarf to California. I've sent a scarf to Alabama, and someone who is interested in that there as well. So folks around the United States are supporting the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. They understand the story, and this is the scarf that we have put together with them to promote the Marshall Islands and the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. I know that a lot of you picked up the jersey. I know a lot of you picked up the bucket hat. Now it's time to pick up the scarf. There's a form in the Discord you can fill out that'll help out Abby when it comes to delivery. And if you see me in person, or you can DM me or the show or whatever, I can figure out how to get it to you. But once again, $32 if you want it delivered, or if I see you in person, or the Abstermobile can get it to you, $32, and probably another $5 if you want me to go to the post office and mail it to you there. So, no, Abby is not driving to California to drop off that particular scarf. That one was put in the mail. That one's going to be put in the mail and go to California. But that's how we're helping out the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. Abby, on Sunday, I've got to give you your 2 scarves and your Atlanta United scarf to add to your stacks, plus the 1-sheeter that describes what we're doing, and you can have that there in the supporters tailgate. So that's all of the traffic for the opening kickoff and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So yes, Abby, yes, it was the unified signing last night. We'll catch up with Jason about that coming up in short order. Also, back to Rhode Island FC, Alex says the pregame ritual will be to throw an anchor into the stands and have it crash through the floor, and they have to repair it every single time. Lucky fan who's impaled gets to sit on the sideline and also get medical attention. Alex is not wrong. So Abby's in this morning. No, Hutch, not California. Yes. South Carolina, possibly. But not Columbia. That might be a little bit more than $5 to ship it too. So we're trying to do our part as well to grow the beautiful game and to be able to partner with our friends at the Marshall Islands. We are very, very blessed to do that, and you can help out as well. A lot of news items this morning, and it's like little knick-knacky things and things like that. We've also got the MLS survey that we can get into. We talked about a little bit about it yesterday. They added to it today in day 2 of their releases, and there's other stuff to talk about when it comes to those particular items. But this morning, Vinicius Jr., and we've got to get into this. And we've also got to get into our buddy Luis Rubiales. And so those are two stories that we're going to get into this morning, in addition to everything else that's going on today. Vinicius Jr., by the way, he broke down in tears earlier this week, talking about the insults that he's been subjected to in Spain, saying he's losing his desire to keep playing because of what he's been going through. Richarlison went through the same kind of depression, and he also debated not coming back and playing. But Vinicius Jr., on the eve of the Spain-Brazil friendly at the Bernabeu, he was discussing it and set up to raise awareness about racism a year after he was insulted. The last time, I guess, he was insulted, because he has been insulted repeatedly by idiots. And this does not roll the clock back to zero when it comes to the other SDH stupidity down here. This is just a continuing example with a press conference. When he was insulted back at Valencia, quote, "Something very sad, what I've been going through here." It's worse than sad. He's right. It's disgusting. It's also, yes, it is sad. It's tough, he says. "I've been fighting against this for a long time. It's exhausting because you feel like you are alone. I've made so many official complaints, but no one is ever punished." When your manager is making public statements, when you are making public statements, when the evidence is there in front of you and the league doesn't step up, that should tell you all you need to know. Spain-Brazil is taking place just after a new wave of insults targeting Vinicius Jr. He says, "More and more I'm losing my desire to play, but I'll keep fighting." He's 23. Vinicius Jr. is 23. And he is saying these things in a press conference about racism in the game. And obviously during the presser, he had to compose himself a couple of times. He says he just wants to keep playing soccer, just want to keep doing everything that I can for my club and for my family. He said it would have been easier to quit, but he said he was chosen to defend this important cause. More power to him. He hasn't considered leaving the Spanish league because of the insults, saying that would give the racists what they really want. Amen, brother. Absolutely true. He says, quote, "I'll stay here playing for the best club in the world and scoring goals and winning titles, and people will have to keep seeing my face for a long time. I'm going to probably end up buying a Vinicius Junior jersey at some point." Says he feels support from other players in the Spanish league, doesn't consider Spain a racist country, but he thinks there are many racists in Spain, and many of them go to the stadiums. That needs to change. Maybe people don't really know what racism is. I'm 23, and I have to teach many people about racism and about how it affects me and about how it affects my family at home. He admitted he has to improve his attitude on the field. He said he hoped people would talk less about what he does wrong and more about the insults against him. Vinicius, who has asked for help from FIFA, UEFA, and other institutions in this fight, and this is from our friends at CBS News, said he's been studying a lot about racism, feels like he's better prepared to talk about the subject. So Vinicius Jr. at 23 has considered quitting at times, but he's going to stick it out in La Liga, and good on him. Also in Spain, from our buddies at CNN, Spanish prosecutors are seeking a prison term of 2.5 years for Luis Rubiales for the unwanted kiss to Jenny Hermoso. The public ministry has formally accused Rubiales of sexual assault for kissing her without consent or acceptance. Without consent or acceptance. And that was the indictment at the time. Once again, initially suspended by FIFA before he resigned after weeks of refusing to step down. Described the kiss as mutual. Said he faces excessive persecution from authorities. Sure, that's the tack you want to take. In addition to the prison sentence, prosecutors have also asked for a supervised release for 2 years, a ban on communicating with Hermoso or coming within 200 meters of her for 4 years, as well as a fine of the equivalent of $54,100. And the prosecutors have also accused Spain's former women's soccer coach Jorge Vilda, Spanish national team director Albert Luque, and the RFEF marketing director at the time, Ruben Rivera, of allegedly pressuring Hermoso to justify the kiss. All 4 men are requested to compensate Hermoso with another $54,100. Rubiales and the other 3 accused have each denied the charges against them in prior testimony, the court's prosecution service said in earlier statements following their respective hearings. Incident also sparked a conversation about the prevalence of, quote, macho culture in Spain. Rubiales' initial refusal to step down also sparked solidarity among Spain's female players. Coaches resigned en masse. 80 soccer players put their name on a statement supporting Hermoso, saying they wouldn't return to the national team if the current leaders continue in their posts. Some held shirts, wore wristbands, unfurled banners. Last September, Vilda was also removed from his role. He had been filmed seeming to inappropriately touch a female staff member during the Women's World Cup final. And he was replaced by Montse Tomé, the first woman in Spanish national team history to hold the position. So Luis Rubiales is having conversations with our buddy John Law over and over and over. Also here early in the morning, everybody's trying to figure out, Abby's trying to figure out where to watch the eclipse. I'm going to watch it on the Weather Channel because I think the show will be going on at the time. So I'm just going to turn to my left occasionally and see the meteorologists that are in a line just really going from southwest to northeast. I think it's like Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, and then you continue to draw it up to the northeast, and that's the main line for the full eclipse. Yes, watching weather reports for many cities, and so Abby says it's in the afternoon. So, yeah, you got to keep an eye on the 7-day forecast and see what's there. Manchester City. Oh, and by the way, when we were discussing briefly what the assistant coach for Nottingham Forest allegedly had called the center ref, I was wrong. Sorry that I used the wrong C word. He did not call him a rooster. He called him the other C word, which is worse. So Reed fined after calling a referee that particular C word. Nicely done. Midge Purse is going to miss the season in the NWSL after tearing an ACL. She announced that on her Instagram. Manchester City's been pretty busy. City has agreed to a deal to sign Kevin Sullivan, who's in the Philadelphia Union system. Kevin Sullivan is 14. Tom Bogert and Sam Lee over at The Athletic, they've reached an agreement on transfer terms with Manchester City to send Sullivan to Manchester when he turns 18. Heavy on add-ons and includes a sell-on percentage. Smart play by Philadelphia to get the sell-on percentage. Sullivan is finalizing an MLS homegrown deal with the Union that will keep him stateside until his move across the Atlantic. Sources say the homegrown deal is the richest in MLS history, and he'll be eligible to debut for the Union first team once it is signed. Union agreed with City that it would send Sullivan to a CFG side elsewhere in Europe if his development surpasses Major League Soccer before his 18th birthday. Athletic previously had reported that City was finalizing an agreement for Sullivan that would send him first to Lommel, second division side in Belgium, at the age of 16 before moving on to City at 18. After discussions with all parties, the new agreement for his development and compensation to the Union was reached for him to stay in Philly. Made his professional debut last weekend with Union 2 and MLS Next Pro. Viewed as the best American prospect in his age group, one of the best across the world. Led the US U15s in the CONCACAF U15 Championship, earned Golden Ball for Best Player of the tournament. His older brother, Quinn, is currently a part of the first team for Philadelphia. Quinn turns 20 this month. Sullivan started the GA Cup. 13, he played for the Union U15s, who beat Arsenal and Real Madrid en route to the final, named GA Cup Best 11. And that's not all that Manchester City is doing. So you've inked a 14-year-old, and it looks like that as a part of the CFG system, they might be close to nearing a deal for England U17 international Christian McFarlane from NYCFC. No deal is done or signed yet. And once again, this is Bogert and Lee. NYCFC and Manchester City both under the umbrella, so it's expected to be completed. McFarlane would not move to England until after he turns 18 next January. He's 17 right now, one of the top prospects that had left back in NYCFC's academy, eligible to play for the U.S., has represented them on the youth level, been a regular for England's U17 side over the last year, scored his first goal for them last week in the 5-0 win over Hungary in the U17 Euros. Still awaiting his first team debut for NYCFC, expected to come this year. Regarded as the team's primary backup left back and has made 27 appearances for NYCFC 2 since 2022. The latest highly rated youth player based in America City is advancing to sign, because we just talked about Kevin Sullivan as well. So NYCFC, this one involving McFarlane, it's within the system. So this one you could sit there and sign and move him and shift him all inside the City Football Group umbrella. not necessarily a difficult task once you get him signed, meaning Manchester City from NYC. The Kevin Sullivan one, 14. 14 years old, Kevin Sullivan, now close to being they agreed to a deal with Kevin Sullivan, the Philadelphia Union and City Football Group. So that's very, very interesting stuff. But once again, we see this in Europe a lot. You see a lot of tracking of teenagers by the big clubs, and they can't, be a part of the process until they hit a certain age in the Premier League, and then they get their sea legs, and then the expectations are huge once they walk in the door. So you got all that. I know at some point I need to talk to Jared about Aberdeen because they're still looking for a manager, and we've kind of kept an eye on Aberdeen ever since the Atlanta United interest. Aberdeen right now, they were working, I think, on their fourth manager this season, and they are 3 points out of the relegation zone, which means that they would be in that second half of the table, and that's not what you want when you are in the Scottish Premier League. Everton fans are demanding clarity over the 777 takeover bid. They want to know what happens if 777's bid falls apart. They sent a letter for the fan advisory board, sent a letter to the club with questions. They want to know what's going on. They want to know whether 777 have the necessary resources. And we've been going over 777 and the resources through the investigations of our friends at Yosemite Football. And they're trying to complete the purchase from Farhad Moshiri. Richard Masters was contacted, the chief executive of the Premier League. Everton's fans and the fan advisory board have questions. I imagine that Tom Russo has questions. I imagine that Ropes has questions. So you have all of this that is a part of the discussion when it comes to Everton. And apparently, news from our friend Jessica Charman and her club Reading, it appears once again that the owner is in discussions with a group to finally sell the club. About time. Well, we've been through this road before. I would not hold my breath on it because there have been times in Reading where the owner has changed his mind and changed the terms and has spurned interest, and the club has stayed with Dai Yong. So we'll see what happens with our friends at Reading. So that's where we are. That's where we are with the early part of the news. It is 9:30, second half hour of the show on a Thursday, and that means that we bring in this guy, Jason. Are you going to watch the eclipse at all?
No, I watched it a few years ago. What was it, 2017?
That sounds about right.
The last time we had one?
That sounds right.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of seen it before. As much as you can see it. You're not supposed to completely see it. You don't want to do that.
Did you do the thing with the shoebox when you were a kid and you sat there and you make the hole in the shoebox and you have you do those kinds of things?
I remember that, yes. I don't have the special glasses, so I'm not going to risk my eyes now.
Yeah, so Abby's trying to figure out where on the strip of the complete eclipse from basically Texas to Louisiana northeastward she's going to be to watch this. So she's going to take the Abstromobile on a roadie. And so
I'm going to skip it this time.
Yeah, right there with you. A couple of things that I wanted to discuss with you this morning. First thing I wanted to discuss was what last night was all about. You were kind of busy, and it was a cool kind of busy. So break folks down as to what you were going through last night.
Yeah, Mike Conte and I got to be the hosts of the Atlanta United Unified Team signing day. I've been to the signing day before, never been one of the hosts of it. It was very, very cool. We do as much as we possibly can, whether I'm talking about SDH or 92.9 or Atlanta United broadcast, on the unified team, just like we do on academy teams, just like we do on the second team, just like we do on the first team. It's part of the club, and it's a big part of the club. It's exciting to see. It's exciting to get to meet everybody and a lot of returning faces. They're going to make a trip this year to Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
To play the Galaxy Unified Team. That was supposed to happen. I can't remember if it was going to be Galaxy or LAFC. I think it was Galaxy, but that was supposed to happen in 2020, and the pandemic shuttled that one. So they are getting out to LA this year, and it's a home and away with Nashville this year as well. So always fun. Great when they're out on the road with us, and it's just such an important part of the team. It was really cool to see a lot of supporters there, all the supporters groups were represented. Just a fun night.
And to be able to be there and see what Marty Jellamy, the head coach, and the staff are able to do, and to see the joy on the players, not just when they're out there, practicing or going up against first team or staff or those kinds of instances, but to see them on the road and enjoying the experiences as a normal club team. It's just like, all right, you're on a club team, you're on the road, you're going to do road things, just to see the joy on their faces as they are treated as equals across the board in Major League Soccer. Very, very cool.
Yeah, they take it very seriously. Atlanta United, just as a club, has really set the bar in MLS with how they've done with their unified team and all of the resources that are put to the unified team. The 2 games we did on the road last year, we broadcast both, and there's some teams that don't do any kind of a stream or broadcast for home games. We do everything as we do. That's just what we do. Also really cool to see Brad Gazan and Tyler Wolf there, 2 of the first team players that are ambassadors with the unified team. Brad has done this ever since he arrived at Atlanta United, representing as a captain, representing as just a good person, and he goes out of his way and spends as much time as he possibly can with these players. I said it. I told the story last night, and it's one that's always stuck with me. The game out at RSL in 2019, very late goal to lose that one, and the unified team was playing afterwards, and Brad went into the locker room and as fast as he could change, because the team was heading back that night on charter. He went in, and as fast as he could possibly change and be ready, he was out there for the pregame speech for the unified team, and spent as long as he could before he had to get on the bus to head back. That kind of stuff goes a long way. And if you ever wonder why Brad is the captain of this club, it's stuff like that. It's a big reason why. He's just such a great ambassador for what Atlanta United is, and the unified team is as well.
Looking forward to seeing the unified team here in 24 as they travel to new places and conquer Major League Soccer all over again with the unified team. Very, very cool stuff. Going to the first team, have you thought out from Toronto yet?
Yeah, I think I eventually thought out either probably close to when we landed on the plane at 3 in the morning or so, or maybe when I got home that night at about 3:34. I don't remember. It was difficult. Look, I know it's easy to have takes, and I feel like anytime we talk about anything, you have to say it's not an excuse. Not an excuse. I feel like we have to hold a sign up or a sandwich board or whatever. But the conditions in Toronto were as miserable as you could possibly have them. I've never felt that miserable physically because of weather. Never, not even close. Hot hands didn't work, I didn't think, but then they did. I just didn't feel them.
Wow.
Allegedly, there was a heater that was blowing hot air out. It just felt like air. Ice on the ball. I mean, it was that cold and windy that any water on the ball was turning to a little bit of ice. Ice on the field. I mean, just all kinds of things that made it difficult. And in a game like that, and I said it on Atlanta Soccer Tonight on Tuesday night, games like that, you just can't fall behind.
Yeah.
Toronto started not really all that much faster. It felt like the first 20 minutes or so were around a wash as both teams were struggling. Toronto got settled in quicker and their pressure became more effective. And that's eventually what turned the game and gave them the lead. Atlanta responded and Toronto dropped off a little bit in the second half too. I mean, it's just hard to maintain that intensity of pressure in those conditions. And Atlanta started to get the ball a little bit more, had some opportunities. Saba had a really good opportunity that was deflected, but Toronto got the second goal, and that's it. It's just can't fall behind on a night like that, and they did, and they kept fighting, and that's what I'll always give this team credit for. They don't just fold up, because you see teams that when they fall behind, they know the game's done. You can see a difference. You don't really see a difference with this team, and it's a credit to that spirit. You've had 2 weird games, like cold games on the road to start the season. It's not an excuse, but when you get on the road in some more favorable conditions, you've got to show that you can get some results on the road this season. That is one of the big steps for this team in 2024.
And the quote that's out there, out of crisis comes opportunity. And with Atlanta United, 7 players down, 6 on international duty, Stian Gregerson with the meniscus out for another couple of weeks at least. They mentioned 3 to 4 weeks, but that's just a bracketed timetable. Could be sooner, could be later, just depends on the healing process. The folks that were in there as a part of the starting lineup, I know that we like to focus on Atlanta United 2 players and coming up, and it gave Noah Cobb another opportunity to be there and be a part of things at the back for the first team.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't even want to call it a crisis because I think that's maybe overstating it a little bit. It's just it's part of this league. It's part of the game. MLS isn't the only league to play through international breaks, but they're one of the few, and it's something that they're going to have to resolve. And I think if that means more midweek games, and this is what I want from. It's easy for whether we're talking about the cold being an excuse, or we're talking about the Open Cup needs to be the biggest thing ever, and we're saying the League's Cup is bad because it's a money grab. All these different things to get what we want, and I'm with it. We don't want to play during these international breaks. You want teams to be as close to full strength as possible. But then the flip side is you're going to play more midweek games. That's the only way.
Yeah.
And you can say what you want about Leagues Cup, but the attendance for Leagues Cup was pretty good last year in general around the league. And it captured people, especially as it got to the knockout rounds, more than the Open Cup has. And that's not ideal in terms of the Open Cup's history, but it is a fact. So that's not going to go anywhere. That tournament makes money, and the Open Cup does not make money right now. So you got to have the Open Cup, and I want everybody to participate in the Open Cup. The Leagues Cup has been successful, and I think it's a big deal to have these meaningful games with Liga MX teams another time during the year outside the teams that go to CONCACAF, which is also important. That's a lot of competitions. You only play a 34-game schedule as opposed to 38 in some leagues. That helps you a little bit, but you're going to have to play some midweek games to avoid international breaks. And I think the trade-off is worth it. But if that's the change that is made, I don't want to hear any griping about midweek games because you can't have it all the way that you think it is in a utopia. Like,
Right.
that doesn't exist. So, and I want to see this year. So the Open Cup coming up. I want to see when MLS teams are in the Open Cup, I want to see the fans turn out for these games. I love the Open Cup. I've told you about this every year we've done this show. The Open Cup is an amazing tournament. All of these things are important at varying degrees. In some seasons, some competitions are more important to certain teams. But you're going to have midweek games to make it work. Now, there was an opportunity in Toronto for guys to get minutes. I think Dax McCarty getting 90 is very, very good to start to get him into a rhythm. Nick Firmino getting his first start, Jamal Tiare getting his first start, Daniel Rios getting time was very, very good because I liked what we saw from Daniel Rios. Noah Cobb is kind of on that trajectory that we saw Caleb Wiley on a couple of years ago, where young player, he's learning every time he's on the field. A lot of people have tried to Zapruder film the first goal and blame it all on Noah. It's not. It's multiple things break down in that moment. And the most important thing is you turn the ball over in your own half because Toronto's pressure was successful. And then everything is, well, if you step hard here, then you're leaving space behind. Somebody else is going to cover you. There's a lot of dominoes there. And the more you go through navigating dominoes, the better you're going to be in the long run. The younger you go through navigating dominoes, the faster you learn how to navigate them and deal with them. Caleb Wiley went through that. Noah Cobb is going through that. I don't think that goal's purely on Noah. I thought Noah actually played pretty well, all things considered. It was a difficult night at the office, and the guys got through it. And then the guys who came back and played for Atlanta United 2 the next day, I didn't hardly know what my name was in the second half of that game. I don't know how Efrain Morales played 90. Luke Brennan had 2 goals. Matthew Edwards was great playing at center back, where he's played fullback all preseason. It was a tough weekend, It was a tough weekend, and to get that on Sunday was great. But Saturday, you've got to take what you can out of that. And you're not going to take a lot out of the soccer side on Saturday night. You're going to take more out of the perseverance and out of the fight and out of the work.
Jason's here for another 15 minutes or so. Kaylor Hodges and the USL show invade us at the top of the hour. It's their first visit of the regular season. You mentioned the twos, and your conversation's triggering other questions and other topics.
Yeah, it happens. I kind of ramble sometimes. You know that by now.
But I know. But then it's like, oh, I'll go this way. Efren Morales and the guys that made the trip to Toronto came back. What's it been like to see Efra continue to grow and develop? And then as we have these conversations with Steve Cook, you learn more about yourself in these instances where you travel, you come home, you take a nap, you play 90, and you just absolutely push yourself through the grinder and learn more about yourself. What's it been like to see Efra continue to grow?
Efra is a prime example of how players don't always develop on the same trajectory. Some guys hit the ground running very, very quickly. Some need a little more time, and more often, some are developing at varying speeds depending on a lot of different things. I think for Efra, it was depending on injuries. He grew a lot very young, and that can make it difficult for your body to catch up. And I think we saw that with Efrain Morales over the 2020, 2021, even into 2022 seasons. Remember, he signed in 2020, scored on his debut in Charleston. These last couple of seasons, he's played pretty consistently, and he has gotten better and better and better. But this off season into first team preseason and now starting the season with the twos has been outstanding. He is on another level, and he's showing that he is a potential MLS center back. He has that kind of ability in him. And this is, I think, part of that process. It's very easy in the situation for guys to coming back from Toronto, sitting on the bench. I mean, it's one thing to be running around in those conditions, but to be sitting on the bench in that cold and then have to get on a plane and then have to fly back and then get home. And you're probably, I mean, I fell asleep. I think I fell asleep before 5 a.m. I think. I don't know how fast these guys fall asleep. Some people fall asleep really quick. Some sleep on the plane. I don't know. Not good sleep. Not the kind of sleep that you need before you're going to play a match, a professional match. I don't know what kind of pregame meal you're able to do because typically you have a couple, and I don't think you had time for that. So to be able to just get up and deal with it, and just watching him at the end of the game, my takeaway from that Tuesday win, and honestly from this whole weekend, is going to be last few minutes. Efra was just really struggling with, I think, fatigue and physical tiredness. Final whistle blows, and it looked like a piano came off his back, and he just slumped over. John Berner comes out to give him a high five, and then just it's like sees him and gives him a hug because he was hurting. But he put in that performance in a clean sheet, and it was really impressive to see. And Edwards and Brendan were both great as well. Good performance from the twos, and what could be kind of a little bit of a marker for what 2024 can be for Atlanta United too.
Yeah, and we'll go down the twos road here a little bit. Let's talk about Agent 86 and Javi Armas and anybody else that that sticks in your mind from the Travelers to the output that we saw there with the big win for the twos this past weekend.
Armas has been great, and I think he's adjusting to the speed of play at the professional level. That's going to be the challenge for him. He's not the fastest. He can think faster than most in terms of soccer IQ. He can pick up speed with his technical ability, which is top notch, but literal speed, quickness, that's not where his strong suit is. But he's finding ways to navigate that. And, he's got a pretty good template in Sergio Busquets and how he's handled it in his career. And it's worked out pretty well for Busi. So Javi can definitely make a place for himself in this game. I don't know what level yet, but he's been very, very good for the twos. That free kick was beautiful. And I got to give credit to the kids. Matthew DeJaney getting the start. Good hard work from him up top. I think he was giving up about 5-6 inches to the center back in aerial duels. He didn't give up. He won a few. He battled. Stephen Herlock came off the bench, got an assist. He's going to be a problem for teams
90
this
seconds
season.
from your first mention of Stephen Herlock, he gets on the score sheet.
Told you, pay attention to some of these kids coming up, and Herlock is one that I've been really, really impressed with going back to the U19s, and he's good. He's very, very good. Miles Hadley has put in a ton of hard work. He got the minutes in the back as well, replacing Edwards. So good stuff all the way around. They've got a lot of time off. That's not ideal, but we'll see how they look when they come back onto the pitch. It's a couple Mondays from now against Philadelphia.
Yeah, it's the 16th, I think.
15th, the
15th.
Monday.
No, the Monday. It's in there somewhere, but yeah, it is a very uncharacteristic 3-week layoff for the Twos in MLS Next Pro.
Yes.
How much study hall have you done when it comes to getting ready for Chicago and Chicago specifically?
A little bit. I mean, Chicago is pretty different than they have been. Some of the same old faces, but then you got guys like Hugo Kuipers and Kellen Acosta in this group that are impact players for them. They're 1-2-2. The draws are probably better than that win, although that win is impressive because they were 3-1 down 80th minute and they found a way back. Now, the goal that got the win was not a shot. That was a long diagonal that the wind, again, took it. Little bit stronger wind, maybe not by much than what we had in Toronto. Took it from being a long diagonal to the right side into the goal. That's their win this season. Shows perseverance. Again, they come back from 3-1 down and get 2 goals in stoppage time to win that one, but maybe a little fluky. This is a team I think still needs some more time. Xherdan Shaqiri is still one of the most talented players in the league. They're playing him a little more centrally now. Brian Gutierrez, one of the most talented young players in the league, just turned 20. He's a player that I've always been really, really impressed with. And Fabian Herbers is having maybe the year of his career, and some of that is with Acosta being the 6 and with Shaqiri being the 10 when they're lined up that way. It allows Herbers a lot of freedom because teams are going to be very worried about Acosta when he steps forward and Shaqiri, obviously, and it's creating some more space for Herbers, who's got 2 goals and 2 assists. So middle of the park, they've been very, very good. Can they do it on the road? They haven't yet this season. Can they do it in Atlanta? Find out on Sunday, but I like Atlanta's chances. The question is going to be somebody like Bartosz Slisz coming back from 120 minutes on Tuesday with Poland. Is he going to be ready to go? Can he give you anything? Can he start? Does he have to come off the bench? You'll get Jay Fortune back, who only played 1 game over the break. That's good. That helps. He should be fine and ready to go 90 minutes on the weekend. Yorgos Giacomakis didn't play a ton of minutes with Greece, but Yorgos is going to need an emotional boost. You know, it's rough when you miss a penalty in a shootout, and Yorgos did for Greece. And if you saw his Instagram post, I think you got a sense of the emotions that are at play with him. He's going to need a boost. And, you know, whoever's out there listening to this, it's going to be in the building on Sunday. Spread the word that, you know, when he starts, and I would assume that he would, he needs the loudest roar that you can possibly give him. It's tough when you're going to get blamed, even though a shootout it's tough. It comes down to individuals, but the team performance is what gets you into that shootout. There was a lot of blame placed on Giacomakis for Greece not winning that shootout, Republic of Georgia going on to the Euros. And Yorgos probably put some of that blame on himself too, because that's the kind of player that he is. It's the kind of teammate that he is. He needs a big boost in the building on Sunday. So when he's announced as a starter, it needs to be the loudest roar that can possibly be mustered.
One of the other things that I was keeping an eye on with Chicago is the injury situation at left back. Do we know anything about Chase Gasper? Because he came on as a sub, had to be subbed off with an injury. They were thin there to begin with. They could be thinner. Do we know anything about the line at the back?
I mean, he came back on the bench over the weekend, so I don't know where he stands at this point, and they won't tell us probably until Saturday. They're a little thin there, but they've got center backs who can slide outside. They've got ways that they can cover that. They'll be okay, but with Gutman going down and then Gasper not being 100%, it's not an ideal situation for them.
When we got another 5 minutes or so here. And one of the other things that I wanted to discuss with you is our high school schedule. And it is a 4-match week for us this week because region play is trying to wrap up before spring break. And then you've got stuff that you can try to take care of just to get your schedule wrapped up to get ready for the playoffs if you're making that kind of a push. You and Maddie started our week with River Ridge, ranked 2 nationally in some polls on the boys' side, going up against Sequoia, and you were pretty active in that one.
Yeah, 5 goals in the first half. That game was crazy, and every goal felt like a golazo as well. A free kick off the underside of the bar, some good work on the left side, then a shot into the far side netting. Felt horrible for the goalkeepers in this one because just goal after bomb after goal after bomb, and there's nothing they can do. Sequoia was ranked number 4 in the classification in 6A. River Ridge was ranked number 1 in the state, and Sequoia took the lead 3 different times, and River Ridge answered back every time. And then you had a red card to Sequoia, second yellow, and then you had a red card late in regulation to River Ridge. So it was 10v10, but I think playing with 10 longer, the legs started to go for Sequoia. It went to overtime. It's overtime in high school. They don't call it extra time. They call it overtime. Welcome to the differences between the rules and all of this. And River Ridge just had too much, and they go on and get it done. And this is a River Ridge team that's missing maybe their best player, Matthew Dean, who is on an academy contract with Charleston Battery this season before he starts in the fall at Georgia Southern. So he forewent his senior season at River Ridge, and he obviously would have been one of their best players. They're still that good.
And last night we were at Forsyth Central in Denmark. Tonight, Stars Mill and McIntosh. And in soccer, I think that's pretty much all you need to say when it comes to those 2 schools.
Yeah, it's always a big one with Stars Mill and McIntosh, 2 of the top programs on the south side of town, 2 of the top programs from Fayette County, different classifications. It doesn't matter. McIntosh's boys are a team to watch this season. McIntosh's girls are as well, but they're boys in a 5A season where I don't know if anyone else has shown that they can be running away from the group. I think McIntosh maybe can. We saw them very, very early in the season, so I want to see how they've developed. And this is going to be a rivalry game. It's a non-region game, but it doesn't feel like it in this one. These are players who have all grown up together, played club together. Going to be a fun one tonight. Girls game kicks off at 6. This is a 6 and an 8, right?
I think this is a 6 and an 8. I will effort quickly, but
it's like some games are 5:30 and 7:30. Some games are 6 and 8, and it feels like we get them back to back. So I get confused. I just plan on everything being a 5:30 and get there plenty of time as best as I can navigating traffic these days. Going to be a good one tonight. Going to be a good one with Stars Mill and McIntosh. Looking forward to it.
Yep, and we'll continue to go through all of this stuff. Gosh, it drives me crazy. I will say this.
What are you doing now?
I'm trying to get the schedule, and the particular website that I go to.
Yeah, it's Max Preps.
Yeah, that one. They have pop-up windows all the time.
Yeah, they love the pop-up windows. They love the pop-up commercials, so they love it.
And so I was trying to sit there and see if it was a 6 and an 8, but you and I just readily assume we'll be there at 4:30 anyway, just to knock on the door in case it's a 5:30. But I think it's a 6 and an 8 tonight.
I believe so.
Before you go,
yes.
let me go ahead and do the fatal the 3-way dance here. Taylor Hodges is coming in for.
What's up, Kaylor?
And so as Jason is leaving, Kaylor is coming in to discuss things. So we were discussing what's going on in MLS Next Pro. Now it's your turn in USL Championship. Jason, do you have a question to lead things off with Kaylor before you go?
Yeah, I have a question. Birmingham Legion this year, you get a chance to see them up close. We saw them super early in preseason, and I was really intrigued by what we saw tactically in that first game. Again, it's first game of preseason, and it felt like maybe something you're trying out, but it felt like there were some interesting building blocks there for Birmingham to play in a more, I don't know, creative, expansive way than I'm accustomed to seeing. Has that played out?
Yes and no. Okay. The building blocks are still there, but the payoff hasn't quite happened. we saw it against Chattanooga. It was a bizarre system where Enzo Martinez is playing holding mid, but he is still the primary presser of the team. And so when this team is in attack, it looks like a 3-1 everybody else.
All right.
It is essentially a 3-1-6 in the attack. They spread it out as wide as it can go, including the three. Granted, it's kind of hard to tell on TV broadcasts because they don't show the whole pitch, but there were times where the right center back and the left center back were on the touch lines as wide as they can go in possession. It is a bizarre system, but I think that once the finishing boots get put on, they're really going to be a problem for teams because I've never seen anything like what they're trying to do.
It's fascinating to see how things are evolving tactically and creatively. I mean, I remember Tom Sohn from his DC United days, and he lived and died with the 3-5-2 at that point. Didn't matter if teams played three up top. He didn't care. He was going to match them. So feels like maybe this is the evolution of that as we get away from formations and positions really being so rigid. But that does take time to get used to and get accustomed to. So excited to see how it continues to develop.
Yep.
All right. So Jason will be on tonight, soccerdownhere.mixler.com, soccerdownhere.mixlr.com for Stars Mill Macintosh. We'll be down there early. We think it's a 6 and an 8. The pop-up windows annoy me, so I didn't check the schedule.
We'll be there. We'll be calling both the girls and the boys games tonight. Looking forward to it.
You got it. All right, Jason, thanks. Go get some breakfast.
Adios.
All right, there goes Jason. So Kaylor stays. And Jason got in the first question for the month of March when it comes to Kaylor and the USL show. So my follow-up question for you, since Jason mentioned Birmingham, I will ask you about Pittsburgh.
Sure.
And we can hear Bob Lilly yelling from here because traditionally we always run the story about 45 minutes after a loss to Atlanta United 2. The stadium lights are turned off. Bob Lilly was still yelling at his team, and that is an indelible image that we have here at SDH. What in the wide world of sports is going on other than the proposed stadium expansion at Highmark? Is the stadium expansion distracting the Pittsburgh Riverhounds? What is going on right now?
Absolutely. I'm glad someone finally called it out for what it is. I think in all reality, it's the fact that they are a team that typically runs a 3-back, and it's not really working because their ball carrying center back, they're trying to make Danny Griffin, and Danny Griffin is an all USL midfielder, and they're putting a midfielder center back, and I just don't think that's working. A lot of that comes down to as well is that they don't have a true finisher of the ball. Like Keza had a couple of breakout moments, but when you think of these great Pittsburgh teams, you had, granted, he wasn't really on the scene as much, but Albert Diqua, your Niko Bretts, your Russell Cicerones, those are guys who, while refined by the Pittsburgh, if you will, they have to buy into the Lily ball. It just hasn't happened, and I'm not sure where the goals are going to come from. And I think that a little bit last year, Albert Diqua kind of masked some holes, and also, losing Joe Farrell and Ordonez to all USL, defenders, that's a big loss. And even for Lily Ball, that's so hard to try to replace.
You look at what's going on there. I do want to ask about the new rule when it comes to roster expansion on game days, because I think that's something that can expose more players to eyes in USL Championship and League One and get everybody attracted to more of the talent that we don't get the chance to see on a regular basis. But month one, now in the books, I guess this is where we do the extremes. Biggest surprise in the league in the month of March in USL Championship, in your mind, would be whom? And I know that we have such an amazingly large sample size to go from here to ask you this question.
I think I think if you're someone who hasn't been paying attention, your answer would be Loudon. I actually think what we're seeing out of Loudon, I think, was personally expected, and a lot of the guys on the USL show expected that from Loudon. But I'm very surprised that Detroit City have been able to really buy into the Danny Decho, philosophy that the way they have. Elvis Amo has turned into what he was pre Hartford, and that's been surprising. I thought he would be good, but I didn't think he'd be there yet.
When you look at Detroit City and, out of the blocks, they've won their first two, and they're right there with Lou City. Lou City, we always anticipate to be a part of the discussion. I know that I kind of gravitate toward the fact that you have some stability between the sticks. The fact that you have a Nate Steinwasser there, you've got to have with leagues that have the transitions with the talent pools that a league like USL Championship has, having stability in net. I think also as they get ready for as they get adjusted to how Danny Dicchio wants to do things, having Steinwasser between the sticks, that to me is something big to help you out of the blocks here after your first two matches.
Unlike their first 2 years in the USL, Nate hasn't been needed.
Hey, save it for later when you're needed, brother. I mean, if you get to stand around, take the paycheck and run, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing is that I think it's also allowed Detroit to play a little bit more freely is because that if you need him, he's there, but he hasn't been needed, which I think if you're Nate, there's a little bit of this is different, and we'll see if maybe he's one of those guys who, if they're not actively involved constantly, then maybe he loses it. I doubt it, but there's a world. But still, I mean, that's a key weapon that has not been forced into action yet, and I think that's great for Detroit City.
Looking at things, some folks have played 3 matches, some have played 2. You mentioned the Battery; they've got 5 points, but they've also, they've not lost. They've only won once in their first 3. The Miami FC's above the mythical playoff bar. If the playoffs started today, then the Miami FC would be a part of the discussion. Tampa Bay, no wins in their first 2. North Carolina, no wins in their first 3. Rhode Island with 2 draws in their first 2. And then we talked about the Riverhounds right now at a -5. When you look at the winless teams in the East, Tampa, North Carolina FC, the newly promoted North Carolina FC, Rhode Island, and Pittsburgh, when you look at those 4, what sticks in your head?
I think that North Carolina and Rhode Island, I'm a little bit more comfortable with where they are right now. North Carolina is proving to have one of the best defenses in the league. I think that, as we all know, the scoring usually comes later on in the season. I believe in what they have attacking wise. I'm okay with kind of where they are. Rhode Island, I mean, they get they draw against New Mexico, who looks really good, barring their defeat to Charleston, but they look really good. And they're going to Monterey Bay, who a lot of us thought would be the worst team in the West, are looking like one of the better teams in the West. So those are 2 good teams that they have gotten points off of. Tampa Bay worries me.
Okay.
I'm not worried about them in the sense that I think they'll miss the playoffs, but they kind of did this last year where it didn't seem great, but it seems like they haven't quite got their footing under Nelson yet, or Nielsen, excuse me.
Yeah.
There's been a little bit of talk of their back line from the guys at the USL show. Forrest Lasso kind of finally looked like Forrest Lasso, but still just not quite what you think it would be quite yet. And we've already discussed Pittsburgh.
Yep. On the Western side of things, when you look at the USL Championship, only 2 teams haven't won yet. And you're looking at El Paso, who front-loaded their schedule, I'm guessing because it was access to the SWUP, where you had to play 3 matches in your first week. You only come out of there with 1 point. You played 4 matches already, and you still wow.
It's because they played Juarez FC in a friendly.
Okay.
They've played 5 matches in 12 days.
5 matches in 12 days. El Paso 4 in USL Championship, plus the friendly and the border battle with Juarez. You only have the 1 point out of the blocks. Switchbacks in Colorado Springs, they've lost their first 3. And then you have folks who, because of wins and goal difference in multiple categories, they have like 1 win on the board. A lot of teams in the West have at least 1 win on the board. El Paso and Colorado Springs do not. Does that concern you on either of those two?
I didn't believe in Colorado Springs coming into the season, to be brutally honest. So this was kind of expected. I think that I would have penciled in a win versus the Miami FC, but also Miami looks really good. They have a lot more variety in their tactical approach than I think a lot of people expected them. In the first game against Colorado Springs, they played the most defensive 4-4-2 I've ever seen in my life. But then, like we kind of talked about on the show last week, against Orange County, they were playing really pretty soccer. Like, it was really nice. So Colorado Springs, this is a bit expected. El Paso, on the other hand, they have players, but they don't have an identity at all.
Okay.
They're living and dying by the wingback because their wingbacks are their best players, but they're also getting caught so far forward that they're leaving them liable defensively, and they're not getting goals out of the wingbacks because who expects goals out of your wingbacks? That's a ridiculous thing to ask. I think that Clairol I think there needs to be refinement tactically, because even if it all clicks with the way the system works, I don't think it gets wins.
Okay. And so we look at those two. I'm always fascinated by the top and the bottom, but since there's a bit of a gaggle in the Western Conference right now, it's kind of trying to focus on the other stories. Orange County's got literally, I mean, you look at this, and 10 of the 12 teams in the Western Conference have a win. Do you anticipate that the Western Conference is going to be this nuts for an entire season, or are we going to see some sifting out and you're going to have some separation at some point?
It kind of always is nuts like this.
True.
Like, I mean, normally it's like your top 2, maybe top 3, and then the 3 through 8 or like really the 3 through 10 hate each other. Like, it just ends up just being a nightmare constantly. So if you're following tradition, if you're following trends, I think so. I think the really good teams over there have kind of set themselves up pretty well, and everybody else is kind of scrapping for 2 through 8 right now.
When you look at Memphis 901 going from the east to the west, and we know what Stephen Glass wants to do. He wants to score a lot and keep scoring. And it's like, all right, try and keep up with us. How do you envision this transition with Memphis 901? Obviously, I'm anticipating perhaps a little slow when it comes to integrating with the West, where you hate everybody anyway. But when you look at Memphis shifting over to the West, what are you anticipating from them?
Defense anywhere travels, right?
Yeah.
Think about what you do with your legs. I'm not saying that the center backs don't work as hard. That's not what I'm saying. But, center backs and typically your fullbacks don't have to go box to box all the time, right? Mm-hmm. This is a team that's built box to box with their midfield and their strikers. Yes, they want to score, but when you're having to be an Eastern Conference team, play a Western Conference schedule, getting on the plane, not getting a proper recovery, if they don't get points early, I'm worried that they'll miss the playoffs. And it's nothing to do with the talent. Their talent is unbelievable. Mm-hmm. But I'm just worried that their legs over a 34-match season plus the U.S. Open Cup is not going to hold up. Yeah. And I think that they need to make some real defensive pushes. I think they need to really invest there soon, because if their defense, which has been okay, if it doesn't get a lot better, I just don't think they can survive the travel. And that's really it. It's just the travel side of it.
No doubt about it. Kaylor Hodges, at Kaylor Hodges on the 280 character app from the USL show with you and Morrissey and the Band of Renowned. That what's the broadcast schedule traditionally for the USL show?
We do 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Tuesdays, and on Thursdays we do our kit show at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay.
And every 2 or so weeks we have our new goalie show where a goalkeeper comes on and breaks down every single touch they had on a ball, and that usually comes out usually Saturday mornings every 2 weeks. Our most recent one was with Colin Shuttler, who scored the game tying goal against Sacramento, and he broke down every single touch he had on the ball and mindset and that kind of stuff. So it's been pretty cool.
Very cool. All right. So Western Conference, it is the same group of heavyweights. Orange County, I still think they're trying to figure out scoring ever since they lost Milan Olaski. It was a great transfer for them, but I still think they're trying to figure out how to regain all of that offense. Sacramento, they're going to be a part of the discussion. San Antonio, they're going to be a part of the discussion. Harry Austin, who is in our timetable every single day, our friends from the Orange and Black show, they show up usually about right now when it comes, because it is 7:15 in the morning out on the West Coast, so they pace themselves. They usually end up showing up about right now. Monterey Bay, you said, was a surprise. Roots, you figure they're going to be a part of the discussion as long as their defense and their keeping holds up. New Mexico United, right now north of the playoff bar, but once again we're 3 matches in. FC Tulsa is going to be an interesting discussion. Memphis, Phoenix, a part of it too. Vegas Lights investing money, and we've already talked about the two. I think that the West, as you say, it is going to be 1 through 10, and you're probably going to get some separation, but those new faces, you mentioned Monterey Bay, that's a part of it. Right now, Oakland Roots, they've hit each column in their first 3 at their 1-1-1. The new faces, which one of the new faces do you think has the most staying power to be north of the playoff bar in the West?
My head says Monterey Bay right now because I believe in what they have totality, which I think is weird to think. I also think that, unless I'm forgetting someone, Oakland gets really screwed over by having good international players. Their most recent match, they were without 3 players due to international call-ups.
But hey, I mean, this is a point that Jason was making about Major League Soccer in hour number 1, that if you want to have the calendar as it is, then you've got to have more midweek matches, and then you've got to make more roster allowances for these situations so you can be prepared to have these absences in USL Championship and USL League One.
I think the issue for the Championship and League One is that there are 0 international breaks. So unlike MLS, where there are built-in international breaks, which, because there's more, obviously that makes sense, but it's not like that there aren't any in the USL. And we've seen this kind of be a constant issue, is that team goes midweek or they go on the weekend and they don't have who they're supposed to be. I mean, like Oakland goes against Phoenix, and Panos Amanakis is ridiculously good. And I'm not saying that he doesn't score if, Neville Hackshaw is there. That's not what I'm saying. But just in general, with Armanakis, with Rito, with Juan Asakar, they would be a little bit more prepared to win that game and be more competitive in that game. Do I think that Oakland walks away with the win? Probably not. I mean, Phoenix looks like they can be a real powerhouse, but as long as those international breaks aren't there, I think that Oakland are going to just kind of nickel and dime the wrong way of just kind of dropping a couple of points due to losing those players.
Another couple of questions with you before you go, and then if breaking news always happens, you know that you can come in and crash. If you find a room that is suitable for hiding, when you can come in and do things with the USL Championship and League One. The new roster initiative that is in the USL, where you can have up to 2 players under the age of 18 in your game day roster above the standard 18-man squad. What do you like? What do you think about this, where you can have young professionals, USL A players coming in, and have more players making first-team debuts so you can help yourself out? And that's why I wanted to ask this question after the idea of more midweek games, international windows, and those kinds of things. USL, with this new rule where you can bring in 2 younger players to help you out on match day.
I think for the most part, it's about getting the players who have probably earned their way into the first team training sessions, but, aren't ready to play yet. I think just getting them around the match day environment, that's a big deal. right? You know, they might not see a match really ever, but seeing how professionals warm up, see how they pace themselves. I mentioned this on the USL show on Tuesday.
Excellent point.
But you know, there was a match where I won't name kid's name or team name, but it was like 2 years ago. And I watched this kid, I think he was about 15, 16 years old at the time, absolutely just wear himself out in the warm up. You could tell the adrenaline was going. He was just way over and over his head. He was absolutely exhausted after the warm up. And guess what? He came in the 80th minute of that game and he was dead before he ever got on because he had worn himself out. That's the stuff that you learn as a professional that you kind of have to learn the hard way. And he got a chance to do that. I think it's a great initiative for kids to learn how to pace yourself. There's a little bit of why does only the home team get to do that? Like that seems like it's an unfair competitive advantage.
Yeah. The
amount of time those teenagers are going to be getting on the pitch, I think is going to be minimal. More than likely when a team's already up by 2-3 goals. And it's also, I think it's kind of a blanket way for the USL to deal with it because child labor laws are different everywhere.
Yeah.
And so for them just to say the home team can do that because chances are the home team knows their own state's labor laws. If the USL came out and said you can do that everywhere except for New Jersey, New whatever, and California. I mean, there was a Tom Bogert tweet about the kid for Red Bulls who couldn't play after 6 p.m.
Yeah,
right?
because he was 15 and literally it was that day that was the last day it would happen because his birthday was the next day and would be 16. And so if they played on Sunday, you wouldn't have to worry about that rule. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that was the USL's way of just trying to skirt that kind of confusion and just say, home team, be aware of your own labor laws, please.
Yes.
I think it's overall great. I think it's going to allow kids to learn how to be professional, whether that means they go professional right away or go to college. They're going to have different experiences and be very important to those groups. And I think it's just great for everybody involved.
2 more questions, and one's in USL League One. Spokane's off to a hot start. Velocity, they've won 2 of their first 3, and they've had the chance to unveil themselves in their new stadium. Marky McKeever and 1 knocks out of the blocks with 2 wins in their first 2 matches. Off the top, north of the playoff bar in the mythical sense in USL League One, Greenville with a win, Tormenta with a win, knocking off Richmond, Lexington with a win, Omaha with a win, Central Valley. So you have 7 of the 12 with wins out of the blocks, but Richmond has lost their first 2, and they're -3 in goal difference. Early thoughts on League One?
Early thoughts, League One. I want to stay in your backyard with Tormenta. Ford Parker might be the best player in the league right now.
There you go.
He is unbelievable in net. He is just on a heater of all heaters. If it wasn't for Ford Parker, Richmond walk away with that game with a draw or a win. And it's hard to believe
Cameron's going to hit on 15 with Ford Parker between the sticks is what you're saying.
Yeah. 1 knocks. We were very down on 1 knocks because we were like, you were very mediocre at best last year and you did kind of nothing in the offseason.
Right.
And now we're seeing why, because they said we already had the answers in house. And the answer is that we sucked last year and we're better. Like we need a fresh start basically. If you look at Spokane, Louis Heel is arguably the best attacking midfielder in the league. He's just incredible, and he's going to be a real catalyst for this team. I'm still not sold on the forward situation. Darling has the potential, but just hasn't shown it yet. I'm not as sold on Spokane quite yet.
Understood.
Richmond are playing the kids, and I really appreciate that. And I can see that there's a tactical identity there. I think it's going to be rough early, but I think as we go on through the season, they're going to pick up steam, and I'm really excited about them. Greenville, I believe in the Greenville project. I really believe in the Greenville project. I love what they're doing. They finally look like Greenville of old. Lexington, you're almost unanimous. They're going to win the league team.
As they broke the salary cap in League One. Just go ahead and say it.
Yeah. And me and John were both like, we don't see it. There were holes there, and they kind of just kept padding the same areas. And the one thing that they were doing under Stocks last year were playing very free and flowing, attacking soccer, and Darren Powell's not that. He is not your progressive soccer type. Everything he does is, I don't want to say negative, but defensive, based.
Defense
And
first,
when you bring in, your Cameron Lancasters, when you have your Joffs, you have Isaac Canoes, guys like that, you want somebody who can connect the play, and they still don't have that.
Yeah.
And they just signed a new player who I think is Chico,
Yeah.
who I think he can be that guy, but we haven't seen it yet. So Lexington, they're just kind of continuing to pad the areas that they're good at, and I just don't know if it's working.
All right, so let me bring in Maddie Cruz in the ones and twos. And Maddie has been touring USL League One. She caught up with McKeever. She caught up with life in Lexington. And so I bring Maddie in for the last question for Kaler in his segment. And it's a story that we went through over the last 2 days. The announcement with USL pairing with the city of Roswell, Georgia, looking at USLS and USL Championship. So, Maddie, question for Kaler and your analysis now that we've had the mayor pro tem from Roswell on the network and all of this kind of stuff. Any thoughts bringing forward stuff with Kaler Hodges here in the USL show?
Yeah, I mean, from talking to the mayor pro tem the other day, a lot of the emphasis was on the women's team in Roswell. It was very evident that that is what their focus is on, but also having that development and having that professional male team too, that's so important. So when you first heard the news, what was your initial reaction? And after taking a little bit, like, what is your thought process on bringing this team in?
I think start off with the Super League side. Women's soccer, professional women's soccer, has been needed a long time in Atlanta. The semi-pros team with UWS, like the Heat and all that kind of stuff.
And you've got Georgia Impact on the WPSL too.
And they've always been great, and I've always loved what they can do. I think that having a Division I women's soccer team there is great. I also think that if they can really bring up the marketing, guess what's happening soon in Atlanta? The She Believes Cup.
Yep.
If they can get, Super League to Atlanta, Super League to Roswell, like any kind of branding anywhere, I mean, that's the crowd you want to do it. I think that this is something that should have happened a long time ago, whether it be NWSL or something. I think that it's great. The championship side, I think, is where people started to scratch their heads, but frankly, not me. I remember going to the two United games, and I know people say attendance. The two United fans were about as loyal as they come. There are groups of people that are two United only. Like, it's real. And I also think that Atlanta, people don't really think about how big Atlanta is. Atlanta is big enough to have two teams. And guess what? If they only draw 3,000 people per game, guess what? That makes them an average championship club. And for some people, Roswell is an easier place to get to than downtown Atlanta. If you're someone like me who comes from out of town, Mercedes-Benz is not always the easiest place to get to. Roswell, for a lot of people, is their own backyard. They don't have to hop on the interstate. I think that it's going to be good. I think it's going to be different than what we saw in United in the USL Championship days.
Yeah.
I think overall this is a very successful and a very exciting future for the Super League especially, but also the championship, because a real shot at the championship in Atlanta, you can kind of say that they did with Atlanta too, but in the end, it is still MLS 2 for a lot of people. Away fans don't really feel like going because it's a 2 team. And, some home fans might say, well, why would I want to watch Academy kids? I think that this is the first real chance that they've given it. Like I said, though, I mean, the two United fans, I mean, they are as loyal as they come. I loved those guys. But I think that it's an overall positive thing on both the men's and the women's side.
Looking at a 10,000 seat facility, and we were Columboing the whole thing and trying to figure out, okay, where could this fit? What real estate are they looking for? How many acres would you need? And they signed the letter of intent. The USL actually came to the city of Roswell. We found that out in the interview that we had with the mayor pro tem. And you have a former Roswell resident in Justin Papadakis who is, he grew up in one of the subdivisions in Roswell. He knows the city, knows how it has grown to the point that it is. And it's something that we'll keep an eye on with the letter of intent through the end of the calendar year, renewable for 9 more months after that. What's going on with the USL show, and what do folks need to know?
This is going to sound ridiculous. The USL show is for sale, if you will. We are
looking for sponsors, is what you're saying.
We are looking for sponsors. We are trying to get our first ever live show on site, pre and post game at a match. So if you would like to check out our Patreon, patreon.com/the USL show, check that out. Or if you want to have, your brand over a national audience, we're here for you. We're trying to get everybody over to the West Coast. We're not going to quite say where we're going yet, but if you would like to get in touch, the USL show @gmail.com.
Okay. So it's always great to have Kaylor and John Morrissey when he's not cutting emo tracks and going through all of the tactics that is going on in the USL. Kaylor, my friend, it's always great to catch up with you and our friends at the USL show. We will catch up with you again in a month's time. So that means, as I stare at my calendar quickly, for the moment, it would be the 25th of the following month where we get to discuss things after folks have played 6 or 7 matches on the season. As always, my friend, thanks for hanging out with us, and make sure that the students stay quiet outside the room that you're hiding in.
They never will.
Absolutely, sir. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.
See you.
There goes Kaylor Hodges. And so, Maddie, I thought it was important to get Kaylor's thoughts on USL to Roswell before he got to go. Once again, the idea of trying to shoehorn 45 acres of live, work, play in Roswell. I mean, like I said, I've got a place in mind, and let's see how close the discussions are when it comes to this particular place. Are you and Jason? Did you see the scarves that our friends from Denmark gave us yesterday? Did you see?
I did see.
So, like I said, I think I'm going to keep the 24 because of being the 24 season. So I think you and Jason are going to have to fight for the thick 23. So I'll bring this tonight to Stars Mill and Macintosh, and the two of you can determine which one of you wants what's going on. All right.
We'll have a rock paper scissors battle for it.
Yeah, something like that, and we'll tape it and put it on social media. Yeah. All right. Before you go, we have to discuss what's going on with your beloved Newcastle, because we do have a piece of broken news that we are going to attempt to fix. And things continue not to look good for Sandro Tonali. During the Kaylor Hodges segment, Sandro Tonali has been charged by the Football Association, by the FA, for allegedly placing bets on games during the start of this season. Tonali banned for 10 months earlier in the campaign for placing bets on matches during his time in Serie A with Milan, but the Italian international investigated again by English football authorities. The FA alleges Tonali placed 50 separate bets between August 12th of 23 and October 12th of 23. So basically 50 bets in a 60-day period. 60 days, 50 bets in breach of Rule FAE8. Tonali has until April 5 to respond. Newcastle came out with a 3-sentence answer, and Tonali joined the Magpies last summer, played 11 matches before his ban came into effect in October. So I believe now it is time for Newcastle fans to commiserate about Sandro Tonali once again.
Yeah, R.I.P. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Why? I don't even know.
Yes. So so it is a conversation that you and Alex Bassine get to have with one another when it comes to what's going on with Sandro Tonali. Obviously, we'll keep an eye on that. And if Nick finally has a chance to recover from his 30 days on the road shooting stuff in a professional capacity, we'll get Nick's thoughts on Tonali as well. You're heading to an intern meeting. Is this correct?
It is. It's the intern meeting. It's every Thursday, or at KSU, because I still do a lot of stuff with KSU athletics, doing all that stuff. We have a little intern meeting at like 10:45, and we just, go over reviews and stuff like that, and go over film review.
Okay. Well, and now is it just strictly KSU stuff, or is it stuff that you have to disclose about what you're doing at SDH at the same time, or is this strictly just KSU material that you guys get to talk about?
It can be a bit of both. Like if I brought like an interview or something I did here that I wanted to go over, they're more than welcome to look at it. So yeah.
Okay, because I didn't know if it was a one-dimensional thing, considering it was Kennesaw. But so you can bring all of the madness that you have been a part of at SDH to the table on a weekly basis and sit there and go, yeah, I did play-by-play, I did hosting, I did color, I did all this kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay, just checking. So I didn't know if you needed any, and that's why I asked. I didn't know if you needed any information from us as you headed into the meeting, or if you have all the resources you need, and you're basically like, no, John, shut up.
Oh no, I got it. No worries. I have it all figured out.
Okay, so we will see you tonight at Stars Mill. Is that correct?
Yes, you will.
Okay, so Maddie, Jason, and I will all be at Stars Mill. It is a 6 and an 8, so we'll be on a little before 6 o'clock with the pregame show at soccerdownhere.mixler.com, soccerdownhere.mixlr.com for Stars Mill and Macintosh. Maddie, I would say enjoy your meeting, but I know that those things you may not necessarily enjoy unless you want to sit there and go, yeah, this is the list of all the stuff I did. What about you? Meh, What did you do in your week? Well, I did this. What did you do? I didn't know if the meetings devolved or degraded into stuff like that. Well, it's like, well, yeah, I went and I wrote an article. Well, I did play-by-play and color and hosted and shot all these stories, all those kinds. Like I said, I don't know if it ever degrades into one of those kinds of things.
It does not. Thank goodness it doesn't.
Okay. All right, just checking. All right, so go enjoy your meeting. We'll see you tonight at Stars Mill for Stars Mill and Macintosh.
Yep, I'll see you guys tonight.
There you go, Maddie Cruz on the ones and twos. And so Maddie's very, very busy. Maddie is graduating summa cum laude in her class, which is probably a good 0.7 of a GPA point above me at the very least. I think I graduated with like a 3.1 or something, and she's got like a 3.9. And I want to know what the teacher, which teacher gave her the B. That's the one I want to know. I want to know the teacher that gave Maddie a B. Yeah, Maddie's our intern for this semester. So she has been crushing it. She has been killing it, and she is insane. She's absolutely insane. And to have her as a part of everything going on here at SDH has been fantastic. So we are now in the final half hour of the show on a Thursday, and that means one thing. It means we find out which cup of coffee our buddy Niko Moreno is on and what he has put the coffee in. And so we bring Niko in, and Niko is like feverishly looking at notes in the green room. And so there he goes. He puts his phone away. Morning, my brother. What is up?
What's going on, guys? Happy to be here. Was having some issue with the StreamYard, but we're back on. We are on coffee cup number 2. You can't see it. Oh, now you can. It's my Juan Valdez.
Oh, there
you have the key to my heart cup. That's what it is. It's a Carlos Vives song from Colombia, and I brought this mug from the homeland, so that's what I'm having today.
I didn't know if that was something that the boss gave you, as the boss appreciates you as a part of the familial unit, but that is a homeland coffee mug. That is not something from the boss.
Yeah, I kind of got it for her over there, but I use it now because she is more of a mug and go type of coffee drinker, and I work from home sometimes, so I get to use it more now.
Okay, no worries about that. As we look at Major League Soccer, for those that might be visiting us for the first time, we bring you on to look at things from your Pacific prism, from the Western Conference, and get your points of view about what has happened over the last 7 days. And one of the first topics that I want to get into, obviously, we will talk about your Sounders. We will play cliffhanger toward the end of the segment and toward the end of the show. LAFC on 2 fronts. LAFC put 5 on Nashville, and yes, 2 of them happened after a Joe Willis red card, and then they swapped out Willis and Elliot Panicos, so they were a man down 3-0. Joe Willis goes outside the 18, and he touches a ball outside the 18 as a goalie, which is a no-no by a keeper outside the 18. How concerned are you about Nashville SCA and about Gary Smith considering this 5-0 thumping that they had with LAFC?
I mean, we've been worried about Nashville since we didn't see them get any more talent, add more pieces to this team. You can only ride that we're disciplined and defensively sound so long. We've been asking Nashville actually to make a step from being a contender to get to the playoffs, to be a tough playoff team in order to get to the elite level, especially in a conference where they could be doing better and they're really not. So they're worrisome. I understand that Godoy is a big piece for this team, and not having him is it's a big deal. And maybe this is the game where things just start to go wrong. And one corner kick where I think it's Mule could have just kind of deflected it. Goalkeeper also doesn't really talk, doesn't communicate. It ends up in the first goal. 8 minutes. Early goal changes a lot, especially for a team like Nashville. But all in all, I think it says more about LAFC. I've been telling people, don't discount this team. This is the way they roll. What did I say last week? They're beating at their own beat, right? They're playing some R&B, but they're getting ready to hip hop. Well, this is what they're going to do. You saw how quickly they were able, once the first goal came around, confidence went up, touches started happening. Atuesta is starting to look like the Atuesta of old now that he's kind of settling into this team. With Ilie Sanchez, things are a little bit better for Ilie too, because he has another guy that can cover some ground, that can hold the ball, that can do a lot of things. So they were just better than Nashville in all fronts, right? And now Denis Bouanga gets that goal, right? The first one just to get the monkey off his back, and then all of a sudden is a different type of LAFC. That dummy that Atuesta does, I mean, that's just quality, right? That's just soccer IQ, awareness. And do they have some like depth problems because they don't have the roster that they probably should have? Sure, but that's coming, right? You know it's coming. This is the LAFC, that they can go shop wherever they want. So unfortunately for the league and for the conference, this is just the beginning of what's going to be, I think, a good year for LAFC. You heard me here say that I thought the Sounders were going to be third, and that was then. Now we don't know, but LAFC was the team that I thought was going to be up top with RSL right behind them. So I think that LAFC is just giving you a little sample of what they could be later down the road.
And that little sample is now apparently, possibly, probably including someone who has perfect hair, a perfect jawline, and a perfectly manicured beard to go along with the attack. It appears, as several have intimated, that Olivier Giroud and his perfectly coiffed persona. When was the last time he headed a ball? I don't know. But with the product that he's got there, it probably doesn't hurt. Olivier Giroud is now the next 30-something that John Thorrington will be spending money on yet another 18-month deal to bring in yet another big-name talent to make that rush that you're talking about. It's been done in the past with Bale and Chiellini. And now you're rolling the dice on an 18-month deal. Apparently, Hugo Lloris has basically told his buddy, hey, bruh, come on over. It's Lipstick City. We'll have some fun. We'll hang out together. We'll go to Nobu in Malibu, and we'll go and hang out. Olivier Giroud now a part of the discussion with LAFC as the new 30-something heading possibly to hang out with Steve Cherundolo.
Yeah, I mean, this you saw coming. You heard rumblings. The question was going to be who it was, and it looks like it is a guy that fits in looks-wise and definitely position-wise to that LAFC scene, because it's not just the team, it's the right, exactly, it's the beauty, it's the lights, it's the stars, it's the everybody's going to want to come watch. Kim Kardashian's going to be all over the place. I mean, all the stars are going to be there. So it's a good fit. I mean, yes, he's 37.
Yeah,
he's a guy that will fit offensively. It's funny because I remember that Cherundolo used to talk about Chicharito not pressing enough, or he wanted other things. I don't know how much pressing and things.
I was going to say, brother, Steve Cherundolo, with how he's running things right now, you want defensive-minded Olivier Giroud. That might translate into Olivier Giroud ain't moving a whole lot.
But I think you look at the league, you saw what Suarez is doing. We know that this team is also honestly about, bringing in guys that are going to globalize this franchise. And just along with Lloris and now with Giroud is just what they're looking for. But in terms of soccer, I think that having a guy that is going to be in the area that's as physical as he is, that is good on the aerial attack, that is a quality finisher. Clearly, a guy that has been doing this for a long time in top leagues with AC Milan, 12 goals with them just recently. So I believe that this is a good fit, especially what you have outside. Dennis Bouanga, Oliveira, he got his goal finally. Oliveira has been a guy that has produced, has created, just had not really scored just yet. He gets that first one against Nashville. So it's all just fitting, right? So I believe this is going to be a big signing for them. I think he is going to be effective because of the system, because of the guys he has around him, because he's hopefully not going to be asked to be doing too much defending. But all in all, I see where they're going. And this is a 37-year-old that doesn't play like a 37-year-old. So I do think that physically he's going to be up to par to play in MLS.
Yeah, and Bogusz won't have to be a false nine as your striker right now, as things are with Steve Cherundolo. Let's go cross town. There are 3 clubs that so far are in double digits in goals scored. One is in the Eastern Conference. We'll talk about them in a bit because they're adding more pieces. The other, there are 2 in the West. One is all caps. St. Louis SC did not figure on that one. But right now, St. Louis is 8th in the street fight that is the Western Conference. That team that right now second in Major League Soccer in goals scored is LAG. And with that protein power pack, the P3 of Puig, Paintsil, and Peck, once again, you're looking at absolute craziness. And it's fantastic to see Paintsil look like Usain Bolt for, 70 or 80 minutes. He hits the starter's blocks. You hear the gun, he's gone. And good luck catching him. Is this sustainable for LAG?
I think it is. I think he's sustainable. I think they have pieces coming in. I think he's going to get better. I've told you about Brugman coming in. I think that they have Zabaleta coming in and filling a role that he hadn't played in so long. I wasn't quite sure what I was going to get out of him. He played well. I just think that when it comes to this offense, we just talked to Stefan Fry this weekend. I think just yesterday. And he said he called this LA Galaxy team the most lethal front 4 in MLS, in his opinion. And you got to give him some, truth to that. You got to give him the hand on it, because when you look at pencil speed, when you look at what Joveljic is doing, right? Greg Vanney must have seen something in Joveljic so good that he wasn't in no need to go get a 9. He got him a couple of weapons out wide. He knew that was going to be his guy. Chicharito was leaving. Joveljic is not a guy that has a huge name, right? You weren't going to think that was going to be your 9. But when you saw him play last season and you saw his ability to get in front of goal, and you saw his IQ as well, because the movements that he does, he's in, he's out, he brings out defenders. You could see that chemistry with Ricky just continue to grow. I think this team is just not just good in talent, but they're a cohesive unit up there. They understand what they want to play for. They seem to know where they're going to be at all times. So I think it is sustainable, and I think it's going to get better. This is a scary team if all pieces can continue to play this well. You talk about Triple P. Sometimes they might not even play that way, because Fagundes gives you a different type of soccer, maybe a little more retention. He tucks inside a little more, allows Aude to get on that outside channel with those overloads, with that overlapping. And that allows Pencil to be wider, be your widest guy in the field, and just have more of a green light to just push out wide, use your talent. In this one with Peck, sometimes he came in a little more inside, and he seemed to play well in that inside channel. So there is a lot of options for Greg Vanney. They're going to be able to attack teams in various ways. And again, Joveljic, 5 matches, 5 goals. He's hot. He's just going to continue to score. So that's a difficult team to play. Defensively, holding teams, being able to get the ball back. They still have some issues. Defensively, the reset defense was a problem here against Sporting Kansas City. It seems like every time that Sporting Kansas City wanted to pick up the tempo and do a quick throw in, quick free kick, that's where this Galaxy team got in some trouble. But again, getting Brookman back, getting some of those pieces in the back line back, I think they're going to be solid. So LAG look like a team that are going to be fighting the top of the West all season long.
All right, let's go to the bottom. 2 teams without a win so far in the regular season. 9 games, no wins for either Austin or Seattle. 5 draws for the both of what's going on with Los Verdes and with you up there in Seattle. What is going on? What has happened in these first 4 matches where Seattle has only gotten 2 points out of what's going on right now, bottom of the table?
There's a difference between excuses and circumstances. And what's happening to Seattle, it's no excuses, it's circumstance. They're dealing with a pandemic of injuries, something that I've asked over and over again if perhaps the club is looking into, or they're reassessing how they're preparing, how they're rehabbing, how they are treating the players, because there's just so many injuries. Not just the fact that they're happening, but the fact that they're re-aggravating, right? JP seemed to be in line to be ready to get back, was training full with the team, and then all of a sudden he gets pulled out, just re-aggravates it. Albert had a similar situation with an ankle where he even said this week, now he's back, but he said, yeah, it kind of was an ankle that I wasn't feeling too good. Then I tried to push it, and then I had to just get back at it. So those things, it's what really worries me about. I'm not sure what's going on with the Sounders. It seems like they're not worried at the time, or at least Brian doesn't seem concerned. I've asked in various ways if he's concerned about the type of injuries that they're getting. Reed Baker's still out. They had the issue at some point with Leo Chu, and now he's out completely for 3 to 5 weeks. I know that those injuries, like a knee injury, a tear, is not something that you can avoid. It just happens, right? Apparently, they don't know exactly when in training it happened, but that's the problem with Seattle. It's just the amount of injuries are not allowing us to see the full potential of this squad. Now, that said, you have to go into a season knowing that you're going to have injuries. I said it in the show. I think Seattle has the potential to be a top team in the Western Conference, but everything has to go well. And in soccer, that doesn't happen often. It's rare where everything goes your way and your new young DP doesn't get injured and he's unbelievable, and Raul Ruiz gets his legs back and there are no problems with the squad, and all of a sudden you're top of the Western Conference. That's just not happening. So that's number one. Number two, just the quality just hasn't been there. I think that Brian Smetzer, it would be a lot easier if he allowed just players to play where they have been successful at before. I've said it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times in this show and various shows. Jordan Morris plays better out wide. Jordan Morris is a player that's better suited to play out wide. He hasn't looked comfortable up top. He had more than a couple of opportunities against San Jose. None of them were either the best decision at the end, the best quality touch. That first one he has, can he maybe cut back and use his right foot on it? Sure. Maybe that's a better option rather than hit him with his left, and kind of an easy save for the goalkeeper. There's one that he gets a beautiful ball from Lenny Leyva where maybe he can chip it. He could do something else with it. Maybe he could look for the contact, create a PK. So he just hasn't looked comfortable. Jordan Morris needs to get on the ball, hasn't gotten on the ball. No services in. I think he's lacking confidence. The way you get him back is by getting him the ball at his feet, allowing him to stretch the defense. And now without Leo Chu, he's the only guy that could fit like for like on that side to stretch out a defense, to help out things. So against the LA Galaxy, I expect them to go back to that 4-2-3-1 with Jordan on the left side, Raul up top, who's been playing very, very well, and Albert right behind him. On the right side, it could be Christian Roldan. I think that's the main option, but they are experimenting with a couple of other players on that side, so you might see something else there. But at the end of the day, I just feel like this team hasn't been cohesive. They haven't been effective because they haven't been playing where the players are more successful at. And then Austin, we've been asking what's going on with Austin for a very long time. They just seem to have no real vision of what they want to do. I know Wolf is a great coach and he has a soccer module and he wants to play a certain way. I just don't know if he has the pieces to do so. I can't blame the coach when that's all you have to work with. There's been now rumors of the Russi maybe leaving. Now, if the Russi leaves, you might as well just bring in a wrecking ball and start from the beginning. Just tear it all up, rebuild it, because sometimes it's easier to rebuild than to try to fix what's going on. So that's my take on Austin.
All right. One other take. I'd mentioned a high-powered offense, and the team that has scored the most goals so far this season in Major League Soccer. No surprise, Messi and friends. While we have been on the show this morning, once again, scouring as they do, the front office with Messi and friends has signed Argentine defender Marcelo Weigand on loan from Boca Juniors. Right back joins the club on loan. He's 24, and they hold an option to extend the loan for the defender through the 25 season. He's going to reinforce the defense for the remainder of the 24 season, pending the receipt of his P1 visa. Chris Henderson had a couple of sentences in for a quote, and they have Weigand in for his particular quote. Once again, Boca Juniors developed in the youth ranks before breaking into the first team in 19, 72 total appearances in all comps, 15 in Copa Libertadores, 3 goals, 7 assists, 5 titles in his time. So once again, Messi and friends going the loan route and trying to bring in reinforcements at the back. And you're having to do things this way because of where I imagine you are going up against the top of the cap figure. So you bring in Weigand from Boca Juniors, another youthful person at the back to help shore up what is going on back there, and it needs shoring up.
Yeah, but not just that. They made the move of DeAndre Jedlin knowing they were going to bring somebody in. That's a lot of confidence. And to bring a guy like this, I mean, there were talks about Matias Rojas and other players that could have been brought in for that position. But this guy, man, he's in rhythm. He could do a lot of what I think Tata Martino hasn't been getting from that specific position. I thought that Gressel was going to be a perfect fit in.
Ooh.
Not good enough for Tata.
Ooh,
Not
boy.
good enough for Tata. So he brings in a guy that's young, that has a huge projection, that you can definitely eventually buy off and keep. This is a strong, young team, man. And it's just sometimes a head scratcher. I've had people literally tell me, I wonder who's really looking into the books of Inter Miami, because how are they doing all of these things, man? But Chris Henderson is now that Garth Lagro is no longer chief of soccer operations or whatever, right. I think Chris Henderson is the number one guy in general senses, or one of. He knows how to do it. He's been there, done that. He learned from Garth Lagro, I'm sure, of how to do that Doctor Strange thing on the roster and you know, how to make it fit. And that's what's going on now. So this is a quality guy. I wouldn't expect any less. I honestly is surprising that they did get the guy from Boca Juniors that it felt like at some point they were not going to be able to sign. So, man, you got to just tip your hat and hope that teams are ready to go against Messi, friends, and the young stars.
Yeah, and I thought that they were done because of the Redondo deal. I thought that they were done getting things squared away. But Chris Henderson and to when you sent DeAndre Jedlin to Cincinnati, the AM number that was brought back was one of the most specific AM numbers I've ever seen in my entire life. It was like 172, 699, something like that. And I mean, that really is massaging the cap, which made me scratch my head when I saw the Weigand deal come across the wire, because, okay, it's a loan deal, but where does this go? He's 24, so it's not a U22 deal. This one, I'm like, man, you're having to massage something. So I don't know if there's something else that's coming as a response to adding Weigand, but we'll see when it comes to the continuing saga of Chris Henderson, Messi and friends, and the cap. All right, time to go to cliffhanger and roll through the matches this week. And if there's any other separate categories within matches that you want to talk about, whether it's totals or what have you, then all you got to do is yell stop, and we stop. All right. Philadelphia hosting the Loons, and the Loons are at the top of the West, and this is the 2 o'clock match on Saturday afternoon. Philadelphia is a -125. This might be a bit of a wake-up call for Minnesota United on the road.
That should be a no-brainer there for Philadelphia. You saw the difference that Julian Carranza makes. I mean, he makes that team go from a good team to an excellent team because they have that guy that's a finisher that is just physical. They played a very good Portland team, and they really tore them apart, made them look silly, made Phil Neville talk about the mindset of the team, but in reality, they just got beat. And even with a goal from Cabecita, who came in and was good. I mean, I thought he was good. I think he was as advertised. I think I told you that Cabecita was a signing that you were going to have to expect goals right off the bus. That's what he did.
And he got his first chunk of the tree from Timber Joey. So that he is integrating very quickly. 4 o'clock, Colorado hosting LAFC. LAFC is a road favorite at a +125. 7:30s. Charlotte and FC Cincinnati. Charlotte is favored at home at a +122 as FC Cincinnati comes to town. FC Cincinnati is a +2.25. That's an interesting number.
That is an interesting number. I wonder. I'm not sure why. That's a tough one to see. I mean, Charlotte ended up beating Columbus on a very circumstantial game. Yeah. 2 injuries for Columbus, one early of Christian Ramirez, red car as well. They're in the 26th. So a lot happening there. I don't know if they're looking too much into that. I thought Charlotte was okay, was good. They won it at the end, 2 goals late in that game. But yeah, I would take Cincinnati on this one. I might even take the goals if you ask me, really.
All right, so let's investigate. Let's investigate our totals as we always do in these situations. When you request, I investigate. All right, so 2.5 is a -104, 3 is a +173, 3.5 is a +237.
No, I could take the 2.5 just to play it safe. Absolutely, yeah, that's solid. I'm writing that one down actually.
2.5 is a -104 in the composite. 3 is a +173. So that should give you your baseline there for those. Also on the board at 7:30, and our buddy Kevin Egan is going to be very, very busy with MLS 360 with all of the East Coasty stuff that's going on this week. It is DC hosting Montreal. DC's favored at home at a -133. CF Montreal is a +338 in the composite going up against DC United at home. Messi and Friends hosting NYC at a -119. This is probably going to be a long day for NYCFC as they're close to +300. I got to go with Messi and Friends here. To me, it doesn't really matter who's a part of that offense. Suarez is doing Suarez-y things, at least early in the year. Whatever Russian steroid and horse pill he's on, it's really working so far. He's ignoring his knees. I got to go with Inter Miami there in that one. Purple team.
And I mean, there are ways that you can definitely stop that team, but New York City doesn't have the tools. I mean, you saw Red Bulls. I thought they did the perfect job on Luis Suarez. You push him, you press him, you have 2 on him, you make him, every run that he's making with or without the ball has to be forceful. And I thought they did a great job at keeping him away from service, but also, again, making everything difficult, whether it's tracking back, getting forward. You make it hard for Luis Suarez. And he looked like maybe most of us thought that he would, although he hasn't because he has that talent. I'm not saying he doesn't, but you could definitely feel how forceful they made it for him.
No doubt. And he looked completely and totally disinterested and disengaged, especially in a downpour. Purple team hosting the Red Bulls, the aforementioned Red Bulls. Purple team's a +147. Red Bulls are a +195 on the road. Toronto FC is a +150 at home, hosting Sporting Kansas City. Sporting Kansas City, north of the border, is a +175. 8:30 Eastern. Copa Tejas FC Dallas is a road dog at Austin. Austin is a +144. FC Dallas is a +183. The draw is a +242. I'm inclined to go draw.
I would go draw absolutely on that one. Austin, okay. Yep. I like the draw. I like that draw for sure. but that's a game I'm not watching. I mean, I might throw the draw and just watch some other game.
Well, here's a game that you'll watch, not this first one. Houston hosting San Jose. Houston's on the minus side at a minus 118. San Jose's a plus 324. You might sit there and think maybe Kataskia for your fantasy team. Nashville and Columbus is your 8:30 to watch, I think. Nashville is a plus 206. Crew on the road at Geodis are a road favorite at a plus 122. Columbus on the plus side, man. Take it.
I'm taking it. And what's the over-under on goals?
All right, so let's see when it shifts. And traditionally, considering what happened last week, I don't know if they'll necessarily get to 5. But all right, so 2.5 is a minus 118. 3 is a plus 147. 3.5 is a plus 210. Nah.
No, I'll just keep it with Columbus. No goals on that one.
Yeah, I mean, you got Columbus on the plus side. Take it and run.
I like it.
At Rio Tinto, it is RSL on the minus side at a minus 110, hosting all caps. St. Louis is a plus 270. And I'm glad that you talked about LAG hosting the Sounders, because that was why I kind of blended what we're seeing with P3 with what we're seeing with Seattle. LAG is a minus 105, draws a plus 274, and Seattle is a plus 264.
That's a tough ask, man. Let's talk real quick about Real Salt Lake and St. Louis. What's the draw on that one?
Draws a plus 278.
Plus 270. And what's the over-under on goals?
All right, so let's check the totals and see what we've got when it comes to these two clubs. And I know that you're looking probably at Chicho Arango having a busy day.
I am.
2.5 is a minus 155. 3 is a plus 105. So it changes at 3. 3.5 is a plus 157.
3.5 is what?
Plus 157.
No, it's not good enough for me, but that's going to be a good game. And I got to talk about Real Salt Lake real quick. I thought they were going to be good coming into this game, into this year, into the season. I thought that they would have Paulo Ruiz. Unfortunately, he's out for the season again. But they just have quality players. I like what they're doing up top. This kid Barajas was great. 17-year-old, came in, looked up to par, assist. Sacramento native. He has some international caps in the youth level with Mexico. That's a kid to watch. But I think RSL, all in all, quality players, a lot of youth. They've had some up and down results this season, but I still like them to be fighting the top of the West. St. Louis as well. Pompeo continues to look good. You can tell that they've been honest and true to their form, to their idea, their philosophy. This could be a game that's a draw, but I'm thinking more of a 2-2. And again, that not good enough for the juice boxes, but that's a game I want to watch for sure.
We talked about LAG in Seattle. Vancouver is a big favorite at a minus 122, hosting Portland, who's a plus 300. And Easter Sunday, Atlanta United at home against Chicago Fire. Atlanta United prohibitive favorite at a minus 133. They get folks back from international duty. GG returns. We don't know about Bart Sleesh. We don't know how many minutes he'll get, considering he helped Poland get into the Euros. Chicago is a plus 317. What do you think about Atlanta and Chicago?
Chicago's about, I couldn't think Chicago even when it was at 400. But Atlanta, they're coming from a tough game against Toronto, but I see, once again, a good bounce back game against a Chicago team that tends to shoot themselves in the foot if it's not the win helping them out to win games. I don't know if they really have it in them. Exactly. So if they don't have that, I think that Atlanta will come up on top in this one. And like I said, it's a feel-good game. It's a game that I would look to have a lot of goals as well. But let me go back to the LA Galaxy Sounders team just for the sake of the local interest here.
Go for it.
Look, this is going to be a tough game, right? I don't think Seattle matches up necessarily well against this LA Galaxy team because of the speed, because of things that they've been doing. I don't know if Seattle has enough of an offense to exploit the deficiencies that LA Galaxy have there. Again, I think Bergman will be back. I think that's going to help out a lot for the LA Galaxy team. But I think best case scenario, a draw for Seattle would be great. A feel-good draw where your offense looks better, where you're a little bit more cohesive, where maybe, Jordan gets a lot more confidence out wide, where Raul maybe gets another goal. That'd be 3 for the season. He became the Sounders' leading scorer with the PK Panenka last week. He beats out Freddie Montero. I see his demeanor as just a lot of confidence back. He feels like he is getting the goals that he wants. So I think Raul's going to have a good game against this LA Galaxy team. But again, I think a draw for this one is the best case scenario for the road team. But this LA Galaxy team, and I would not be surprised if they win it. I'm thinking that it'll be a draw, best case scenario for Seattle, but LA Galaxy just has too much power, too many tools. And as much as Seattle has tried to be good defensively, last game against San Jose, so much problems when it comes to communication between Jackson Reagan, who had a really, really bad game. Yammer Gomez-Andrade was coming in his first game of the season, first 90 of the season. Well, he didn't play 90, but the first full game basically of the season. So that's a tough ask for Seattle against LA Galaxy.
No doubt, looking at the total as well in that one. So what's the latest with you, Postal Sports, and the Soccer Bar?
Yes, sir. So we'll be back with Soccer Bar here in a couple of minutes. You actually touched some of the things that we're going to be talking about in Spanish. You were spot on today with the subjects as always. So we'll be talking a little bit about this. We'll talk about CONCACAF Cup that's coming up also next week, U.S. Open Cup. What are the challenges some of these teams are facing in regards to that? The referees get they're going to be back. What they got, what they didn't get. You can find that out at Soccer Bar and at Pulso Sports. Obviously, we talked to Stefan Fry, who was very honest about where the team is to improve, what's been going right, and facing the LA Galaxy, as well as Brian Smetzer telling us about all of the injuries that have been going on, including Leo Chu being out for as long as he will be, which is 3 to 5 weeks.
No doubt about it. As always, my friend, great to catch up with you every Thursday and see you flourishing as you do. My friend, great to see you. We will catch up with you next week. May everything stick to the tape. May you have successful broadcasts and enjoy what's going on this weekend. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, my guy. Appreciate you guys. Have a good one. We'll see you next week.
That is Niko, and he's on his second cup of coffee, so that'll be a fun one following along. And if you have the chance, go catch up with Niko and watch the Soccer Bar and Pulso Sports and all the work that they do over on the left coast. All right, gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and I know that the fourth has held up the sign. I know we're on the plus side, so gossip, rumor, and innuendo and what to watch before we go. Once again, reminder, it is a 6 and an 8 tonight. Stars Mill Macintosh, and it is girls first, and we'll be on a little before 6. And then separate broadcast at soccerdownhere.mixler.com, soccerdownhere.mixlr.com, and at soccerdownhere.net, the website, and you can click through and listen to it that way as well. You can catch up with Stars Mill and Macintosh today. You can catch up with the 4 matches that we've already broadcast this week and get ready for White County and Gilmer tomorrow on the network as we go up into the mountains for the first time in our broadcast history. For our game of the week, which is the 4th game of the week that we've had this week. 3rd game of the week this week, 6 and 8 o'clock tonight. Boys and girls, Stars Mill and Macintosh here on the network. Before we go, once again, gossip, rumor, and innuendo, anything else that's going on in our brains before we go. And when we look at the Thursday gossip, Arsenal have a 10-man short list. It's not really a short list if it's 10, is it? For a new striker. RB Leipzig's Benjamin Sesko, Sporting Lisbon's Victor Gyökeres, and Newcastle's Alexander Isak, among those that are being monitored. Ivan Toney also remains on the short list, and he's also attracted interest for several different reasons for Mikel Arteta. That's from the 4-letter paper. That's not really new news. Manchester United keen on Everton's Jared Branthwaite as they prioritize improving their defense next season. And according to Dell, if Old Trafford goes under construction, they might be playing at the Etihad. Yikes. What's the rent they're going to charge if that happens? Pep Guardiola is obsessed, according to Fichajes, by Newcastle midfielder Bruno Guimaraes, but Manchester City would have to pay €100 million to sign the Brazil international. West Ham expect Manchester City to move again for Lucas Paquetá. Chelsea, among clubs interested in Atletico Paranaense keeper Bento, who made his Brazil debut against England last week. Spurs want to sign Feyenoord striker Santiago Jimenez as their replacement for Harry Kane this summer, 1 year after Kane has left for Bayern Munich. Liverpool forward Luis Diaz has not given up hope of moving to one of the big Spanish La Liga clubs in the future, according to his dad, 4-letter paper. Manchester United interested in signing Argentine defender Aaron Anselmino from Boca Juniors. Anselmino is 18. Roberto De Zerbi's Bayern Munich's leading managerial candidate if they cannot persuade Xabi to join from Bayer Leverkusen. Spurs, West Ham, Brighton, and Everton are all plotting for Juve U21 winger Samuel Illing Jr. Jorginho could leave Arsenal this summer to return home to Italy, according to Football London. Gunners also, their hopes of signing winger Xavi Simon have been hit because PSG want to give him more game time when he returns from a loan from RB Leipzig. Manchester United will let Christian Eriksen leave this summer. Real Madrid cannot afford a rumored move for Trent Alexander-Arnold, according to Goal. Toni Kroos is set to sign a one-year contract extension to stay at Real Madrid, according to Fabrizio Romano. Liverpool assistant coach Pep Linders is they continue to take charge at Ajax. Manchester United frustrated that Tunisian midfielder Hannibal Mabry's lack of game time while on loan at Sevilla, with him having just made 4 appearances in La Liga since joining in January. Arsenal teenager Ethan Nwaneri will sign his first professional deal at the club after returning from the U17 duty this week with England, with the midfielder having previously attracted interest from Manchester City. Once again, and if you missed it, the FA has now charged Sandro Tonali with misconduct in relation to alleged breaches. Once again, serving a 10-month ban issued by the Italian Football Federation back in October for breaking betting rules. And then he joins Newcastle for £55 million. FA alleges Tonali broke rules 50 bets on matches in a 2-month period between August and October 12th of last year. Tonali banned for betting on matches involving Brescia and Milan. FIFA later granted the Italian Federation's request to have the ban extended worldwide. And then Newcastle came out with their statement. Current ban means Tonali's not eligible to play again until August of this year and will not feature in the Euro. Tonali was fined €20,000, initially given an 18-month ban, reduced after he agreed to take part in an 8-month therapeutic plan, those words are in quotes, to help recovery from gambling addiction. That includes Tonali making at least 16 public appearances in Italy, where he's expected to speak to young players about the dangers of gambling. Although he's unable to play, he can train alongside his Newcastle teammates. He'd only made 12 appearances for Eddie Howe's side before the suspension was imposed. He has until April 5th to respond to the FA charges. Now, what's on TV, what to watch, and where can you watch it? Let's find out, shall we? Soccer on TV today. As we sit there and try to look at what's on TV, and you always recycle, but you don't advance the day. I love how this works. All right, so soccer on TV. We go to soccer on TV today, which would be nice. On a season pass, you have a couple of Next Pro matches tonight on Apple TV. Fire 2, Union 2 at 7 from Bridgeview, and Dynamo 2 against Los Verdos in Copa Tejas MLS Next Pro style at 8 o'clock. The Zone USA Women's Champions League at 1:45 and 4. Barcelona Braun, followed by PSG and Haken. MLSNextPro.com has the FC Cincinnati 2, Red Bulls 2 match at 6 o'clock. If you see on the schedule that Crown Legacy and the 2s are happening at 7:30, it is not. That has been slid further down the calendar, as has the Union 2 match from 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, 2 weeks from now, 3. Where the MLS Next Pro match has been slid to Monday, and the first team match is still on that Sunday afternoon. Paramount Plus, Copa de la Liga in Argentina, Rosario Central and Barraca Central at 7. Instituto and Argentinos Juniors is at 8. And so that is your viewing for the day. Once again, tomorrow it is our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring at 9:30. The weekend whip around is at 10. We'll go through all the divisions. We'll go through USL Championship, League One, anything else on your mind, all the MLS matches. We'll go through that in the second hour. But Beyond Goals Mentoring, our friends catch up with us at 9:30. We'll get you ready for the weekend and anything on your mind as we go. Thanks again to Jason for dropping by on Thursdays at 9:30, as he always does. Thanks to Kaylor Hodges and our friends at the USL show for joining as he does the last Thursday of the month to check in on Championship in League One. And as always, Thursdays with Niko at 10:30. It's always great to catch up with Niko and get his thoughts about what's going on out west. Once again, a little before 6, it'll be the pregame show, Starsville and McIntosh, 2 broadcasts. It is the boys and the girls, or the girls and the boys, because we believe in chivalry. Girls first at 6, boys shortly thereafter, maybe a little after 8 o'clock. And we'll have those for you on the network. We'll talk about them tomorrow as we get ready for White County visiting Gilmer for the 4th match in a match week here at SDH. So thanks for hanging out as you always do. We'll be back at it again in shortly under 22 hours. And since it is the end of the show, it means I get to do this. Played safe, everybody. Mucha plata, y'all. And we'll be with you tonight from Stars Mill, a little before 6. Played safe, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.